Recently I started college. The transition from high school took some getting used to. You spend less time in classes and more time doing homework. The key observation I made during my first few weeks was that I need to gush about Splatoon 3. I waited a year and a half for this game. I played a ton of the previous game. I debuted a YouTube channel by discussing the potential of this game. Now my moment has arrived, so don't expect me to stay quiet about this. And if you do, press the back button and consider why you clicked on this clearly labelled video in the first place. Those remaining can rejoice, as the heavenly fax machines at Nintendo, Monolith Soft and apparently now Bandai Namco have printed out and bestowed upon our kind Splatoon 3. And it's approximately 46.7741935% of what I asked for. Up to this point, Splatoon as a series defined itself with solid core gameplay that served as a refreshing spin on multiplayer shooters, with a variety of innovative weapons to use in battle, in addition to single player campaigns, especially Octa expansion, that provide a different experience of a multiplayer while teaching and preparing the player. As you can see, there are plenty of reasons to love Splatoon, though it is valid to not love it. The series' style and aesthetic is designed to appeal to newer generations, who are also more willing and able to play competitive multiplayer video games over a large period of time. If you're an older person who's intimidated by competitive multiplayer or struggling to catch up with modern youth culture, I can tell you now that Splatoon 3 by itself likely won't change your mind on the series. Maybe the nerdy ramblings of a member of the target audience will though, or at least it might give you a new perspective to consider regarding pop culture. Again, there's a back button for when you lose interest, and if you're already a Splatoon fan this doesn't apply to you. You want to hear my in-depth opinions on this game, so without further ado, it's more or less the same gameplay as before. Shocker, right? Some people were livid about this leading up to release, insisting that this sequel had no good reason to exist over Mario Kart 10 with basically the same gameplay loop as Tour 8 and 7 and Wii. But I don't feel the formula needed drastically changing when the formula was so good to begin with. Splatoon 3 preserves the fast pace and variety that made Splatoon 1 and 2 fun, and enhances it with smaller system changes and new weapons. Take, for example, Squid Roll, a new universal action that lets the player instantly change direction when swimming and briefly gives them armor while doing so. The utility of this is vast. You can save time traversing corners when approaching the action, commit more easily to a change in direction, throw off an enemy charge's aim and waste their shot, wall jump to make yourself harder to hit. If you're really skilled, you can roll during a fight and let the armor tank an extra hit necessary to survive and win. Such high-skill applications as Squid Roll speak to how versatile and well-designed the mechanic is. Ideally, I'd be able to say the same about Squid Surge, the other new universal action that lets the player rise up walls and into the air. Despite marketing typically discussing this alongside Squid Roll, this isn't quite as game-changing. It requires a charge that by default takes a bit too long for a game as fast-paced as Splatoon, and relegates this mostly to a niche mix-up against opponents who may have forgotten it exists. A mix-up it still is though, made useful in a match by weapons, which also make everything else in Splatoon useful. Thankfully, 3 at launch brought back one set for every main weapon in 2, but not the Jewel Squelcher. If you remember what weapon in the first game called the Jewel Squelcher, you're clearly misremembering. Look, here's some new main weapons to keep your mind off the Jewel Squelcher, starting with the Tri-Stringer. I'm not yet feeling this one, and I'm most likely not experienced enough with it. It has much less turfing and killing power by itself, instead being built around the sticky arrows, getting kill assists and defending key points, making it much more team reliant than most other weapons. It'll take time for players to form strategies with this, and then I'll be able to have an accurate opinion on it. In contrast, the Reflux 450 is much easier for new players to wrap their heads around. It cuts the sticky arrows and some range, and inflates every other stat by a lot. Supreme mobility, higher damage per shot, much faster charging making this viable near close range, an immense turfing ability so it can spam its special Tenta missiles. Splatoon 2 never left us. This weapon kit is so fun, but likely to get nerfed, and I can't say I'm against that. If these stringers aren't to your taste, then why not try Splatanas? Both the Wiper and the Stamper are also a bit precise and hard to get used to, but a lot of fun and easy to get carried away with and not help your team the way you probably should be. The two Splatanas are, as they should be, similar, with the Wiper being a little quicker and the Stamper doing a little more damage. Your preferred Splatana will likely come down to the weapon kits. Do you prefer the pressure of Torpedo and Ultra Stamp, or the mobility of Burst Bomb and Zipcaster? Personally, I prefer the Stamper because zipping around and going out of bounds to flank enemies is so thrilling, as are a lot of the new special weapons. Trizooka and Crab Tank are excellent ways to deal with longer range opponents. Wavebreaker and Big Bubbler are also cool, like the Killer Whale 5.1 would be if it was accurate to a 5.1 surround sound system instead of having 6 identical speakers. Inkvac is a more elegantly designed push denier than Stingray, but I'm still not entirely sold on this type of special. It can be frustrating to deal with, but I guess that's the point. I thought prior to release there would be multiple Tacticoolers, each providing different buffs, but it turns out there's only one Tacticooler and it provides lots of buffs at once. If you die with an active Tacticooler and the enemy doesn't have Respawn Punisher, you respawn in around 2 seconds and keep all your special charge. It's a bit much and I wouldn't mind this being reduced. The returning specials I'm not as keen on, mostly because the Splatoon 1 specials received creative new remixes, whereas the Splatoon 2 specials were just ported directly over. It leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. At least there's some good choices. I quite like Inkjet and Booyah Bomb. Splashdown is relegated to story mode so we can't ruin any more weapon kits. Bomb Launcher at this point is a staple. Oh, they didn't make a new Bomb Rush or Launcher this time. I guess the Triple Ink Strike replaced it. The worst one is definitely Tenta Missiles. They were one of the worst parts of 2 and they're back in 3 from day 1 and seemingly buffed? It'll take some severe rebalancing to convince me they needed to come back. It is possible for patches to make me like Tenta Missiles, and by extension, it is possible for patches to fix all my issues with game balance. On a fundamental level, I am greatly enjoying Splatoon 3 so far, because it's more of what I enjoyed from Splatoon 2. Content updates will add even more weapons for me to enjoy, hopefully at a sufficient rate. But what are all these weapons and mechanics without? Whereas the core gameplay itself hasn't been majorly altered, the experience of partaking in it has been enhanced by updates to many of the surrounding elements. A standout example of this is the new lobby. In previous games, you would select a matchmaking queue from menu and wait while you either play minigames or manipulate the background music. From what I've heard, the former was very charming and had a cult following, but the latter definitely wasn't captivating. In Splatoon 2, the wait for a match typically took you out of the game and onto your phone browsing social media to pass time. To keep you in the game, Splatoon 3 could have added the minigames back and called it a day. Instead, it gives a whole test range to practice in to the sound of past games' battle music. Not only is this a fun toy, this is a useful, convenient tool for competitive players. While not in a queue, you can still enter the test range on top of joining friends' queues, buying snacks and drinks, viewing battle statistics, and viewing and sharing replays, another awesome feature for competitive players. The new lobby might be better than Splatoon 1's lobby minigames, and it leaves room for Nintendo to add the minigames on top. It's such an improvement, it might distract me from playing the matches it's primarily designed to let me access. I don't enjoy Turf War, so instead I spend more of my time playing Anarchy Battles. As a modification of the previous game's Ranked Battle, Anarchy Battle keeps the hierarchy that determines your social standing in the matchmaking of society, and only modifies the exact way you make it up to the top. Serious rank point grinding sessions take place in Anarchy Battle series, where you continually play matches until you achieve either 5 wins or 3 losses, then are awarded points based on your wins and medals, which I now need to go over. Medals are another new feature to Splatoon 3, rewards for statistical accomplishments players achieve during a match. They can be a useful resource for players to learn what they did well during a particular match and deduce how they could have improved their play or how valid their salty complaints are. The reward for getting gold medals is only present in Anarchy Battle series and very small there. I would like a stronger incentive to compete with them. How it is right now may make more sense when considering Anarchy Battle Open, where you play a single match and gain or lose so few points, at least in the lower ranks, that it might as well be an unranked ranked queue. That is a feature some have wanted, and it certainly is nice to play my preferred modes under less pressure. Series, Open, and the yet to be released X Battle and League Battle all have separate stage mode rotations, meaning once X and League Battle are available, 4 Anarchy modes with 2 stages each will be available available at all times. I'm a bit bummed there wasn't a 5th mode at launch, but one could easily come in an update. Remember Clan Blitz was a post-launch addition to Splatoon 2. What there are plenty of at launch are new stages. Of the 5 new ones at launch, I'd say my favourite is Mincemeat Metalworks. It has the right amount of space to feel free to move around in while keeping matches close and action-packed. I also like Hagglefish Market and Eeltail Alley for the same reason, though the latter is a large choke point. Undertow Spillway is too small for my liking, and I haven't yet played enough matches on Scourge Gorge to form an opinion on it. The returning stages are fine, though Wahoo World still has 2 massive choke points. Mahi Mahi Resort was made way too small for some reason, and there are simply multiple stages I'd rather have brought back than Sturgeon Shipyard. Once you're tired of these stages and modes, there's a secondary multiplayer mode waiting for you in Salmon Run. For plot-related reasons, I was shocked to see Salmon Run return in this game, but it was worth it for one reason: Egg Throw. This one action opens up so much freedom in how the mode is played. It allows players to work further from the basket and still be able to transport their golden eggs to it, speeding up egg collection and remedying the common mistake of killing bosses too far from the basket. In addition, the new stage Sockeye Station is designed around this action and serves as a great Salmon Run stage overall, with its high ground in the middle and plenty of space below. Goldenfish and Hydra Plant also accommodates egg throw, but is a bit flat and boring. Spawning Grounds doesn't, due to returning from 2, and still has too many grates on one side. Good luck working here on a high hazard level, and they go much higher in this game. The new boss salmonids are dynamic and fun additions to spice the mode up. I especially like how the Fish Sticks Pillar, Big Shots Cannon, and the Slamming Lid to an extent can be used to the player's advantage. After enough shifts, there will be an extra wave after wave 3 with the goal of defeating the King Salmonid, of which there is only one so far. I have not been able to reach this goal because the fight is hard, to the point that the game doesn't expect you to beat it. If you do defeat it, the rewards are apparently minuscule. You get a few more scales, but there's no guarantee any of them will be gold or silver. Like with medals, I'd like more reward for beating King Salmonids, in addition to more King Salmonids to beat. In the meantime, we can play the tertiary multiplayer mode, Table Turf Battle. Simply the idea of adding a trading card game as a side mode is commendable. No fan came up with this idea prior to its reveal, yet it fits perfectly in the game. It's also fun in a way reminiscent of proper multiplayer matches, which I don't have the analysis skills required to explain why it's fun, it just is. What isn't fun is the ability to play with other players in real time. Currently you fight CPUs using others' decks, but according to media outlets that's planned to be added in an update. When that is added, let's hope its netcode isn't anything like the main game's netcode, because in its current state it is bad. Communication errors during matchmaking seem to be more common than they were in 2, and once you're in a match, hit registration now has a delay from the game trying to sync hits between consoles before registering them. It doesn't stop at sloppy netcode. At launch, there were numerous glitches that could be encountered in normal gameplay. Granted, some of these were funny, but they weren't exactly practical. Even the ending cutscene of story mode could be interrupted by a communication error and cause up to 2 hours of unsaved progress to be lost. Splatoon 3 had a more buggy release than the average Nintendo game, and I'm not sure if any behind the scenes issues may have contributed to this. This is what patches are for, I suppose. Once they do iron out those bugs, we'll be free to truly appreciate the variety of multiplayer content in this game. Now what if for a weekend they got rid of most of that?
You are a kidnapper!
Of course these were coming back, I'd be another fool for thinking they would be removed. What I was most concerned about was if they would be any funner than a weekend of only Turf War, and they are. Introducing Tricolour Turf War. Anarchy modes aren't playable in Splatfest, but this feels enough like an Anarchy mode for me to finally enjoy playing in Splatfest. Ultra Signals provide an objective that the defending team, the team with the highest clout halfway through the Splatfest, have to defend from the 2 attacking teams. If an attacking team claims the Ultra Signal, a sprinkler of doom will appear on their side and ink a large area, greatly helping their score. For the attacking teams, this is extremely fun, but I can't speak for the defending team as I've never been on the defending team, and if I were, I imagine I would enjoy it a bit less. A mode like this is something fans have clamoured for years. Yet it feels like the moment the Splatfest World Premiere ended, everyone went online to complain about how awful and horribly balanced the mode was. I don't remember seeing a single one of these complaints during the World Premiere, presumably because everyone was out there enjoying it. There was another Splatfest held the next month that would allow me to verify these claims, but of course I caught a cold that weekend and felt too ill to play. Judging from other people, who may or may not have complained about the mode in the last Splatfest, it was a bit more tolerable this time thanks to the stage. Sturgeon Shipyard typically favoured the attacking teams, whereas Hammerhead Bridge tended to favour the defending team. And of course, no stage was designed to accommodate 3 teams in the first place. I'd be a lot more confident in saying this if anyone was able to play Tricolour Turf for that Splatfest. Nintendo said they'd temporarily lower the percentage of Tricolour Turf Wars after the world premiere, and they were not kidding. Thanks, complainers! What makes the supposedly unbalanced gameplay more saddening is that these are Splatfests, so the themes are bound to be unbalanced as well. Maybe that was an overstatement. There have only been 2 Splatfests so far, with a third approaching at time of recording. Rock vs Paper vs Scissors was a given, balanced, iconic, the perfect introduction to 3-team Splatfests. Gear vs Grub vs Fun is where the old Splatfest imbalance kicked in, as Team Gear swept the votes by virtue of Gear being able to produce food and entertainment, as well as being necessary to survive on an island. Some of the arguments for Teams Grub and Fun were fun, and inspired the type of discussion I'd like future Splatfest themes to capture. Grass type versus fire type versus water type is a theme I have no interest in because I have no emotional attachment to Pokemon and I'm not sure I ever will. I've played Persona and Fire Emblem, I can't go back to Pokemon now. That said, I value how attached other players are to both of these franchises. My only wish for future Splatfest themes is that they remain original and avoid reusing previous games' themes, but now with a third choice. Now, for those of you without a Nintendo Switch Online subscription, I certainly recommend one from a multiplayer-focused game, but in the meantime, you can enjoy...
You are a and you have my pity. Farewell.
With a new game comes a new campaign, yet another reason why the same game complainers should have stayed quiet from the beginning. This campaign especially has a lot of work put into it, featuring over 60 missions, 7 overworld maps, unique mechanics, boss fights, unlockables, story content. I reckon this is where most development resources were poured into. In terms of gameplay, Return of the Mammalians feels like a sublime fusion of Hero Mode and Octo expansion. Missions in Ultima follow the same structure as test stations in Octo expansion, featuring either traditional Hero Mode style romps or creative challenges that test the player's puzzle solving or skill with certain weapons. For the most part, they're noticeably easier than Octo expansion, probably because this is in the base game and that was paid DLC, and the developers don't want players to miss out on base game content. That does not mean they weren't enjoyable, because they absolutely were. When playing through missions, it's easy to notice the lack of collectibles. In 1 and 2's Hero Mode, searching around levels would net you Sunken Scrolls and Sardinium, whereas this time it'll net you a few bonus power eggs at most. That's because most of the exploration is now moved to the hub worlds. Splotches of fuzzy ooze cover much of Ultima when you first enter, and must be cleared by small fry consuming them at the cost of power eggs. Hidden under fuzzy ooze or in the open are countless trinkets like Sunken Scrolls, Sardinium, decorations, clearer background music, more power eggs, or entire missions. Power eggs are also rewarded for clearing missions, alongside portions of Ultima logs that give great insight into the lore of Splatoon, and are definitely worth clearing missions to read. Added together, this serves to make story mode extremely non-linear, with any number of missions, save a few required ones, being clearable in any order, yet gives fantastic incentive to clear as much of it as possible. I had a blast playing through it, and I'm sure you will too. Even if you're on the fence about this series, this may comfortably introduce you to the gameplay of Splatoon that so many love. Full game spoiler warning from here on out. If you want to avoid spoilers, skip to the next chapter. The game starts out so similarly to 1 and 2's hero modes, with repeated plot elements, similar level structures and remixes of old music, that the player instantly knows that this is a fake out. There's no way they'd go back to the old tropes after Octo Expansion was praised for breaking them. DJ Octavio is even the introductory boss, in stark contrast to being the final boss twice prior. Once you beat him, you fall down a hole into Alternate and everything changes. Gone are the hero mode tropes of old, and instead is a new experience that combines the best aspects of hero mode and Octo Expansion. This moment would feel amazing if the existence of Alternate wasn't spoiled by the necessity to advertise the game. Nintendo couldn't exactly market only the crater as if it were the entire story mode, because people would get the impression the entire campaign would be boring. It's quite unfortunate that twists like this are no longer very effective in an era when advertising a game is as important as making the game good. Pre-release marketing is short-term. Making a good game is long-term. Now we can play the game to see how good it is and market it ourselves by telling others what we enjoy about it. For example, I like the Alternate logs. They reveal and answer a lot about the world of Splatoon, as in, they explained how squids and octopuses evolved so drastically in 12,000 years. I was not expecting them to address that, but they did anyway, and the explanation is a bit odd, but this entire series is fantasy. They also reveal the nature of Alternate being a shelter for human survivors of the apocalypse, which fits naturally into most apocalyptic settings and makes for nice scenery in a video game. I have no complaints about that here. I may be alone on this, but I didn't get a huge sense of character from most of the characters featured here. Callie and Marie, Agents 1 and 2, seems we're doing this again, are perhaps the most fun characters here, because it's hard to write the Squid Sisters to not be fun. Cuttlefish is retired in the time between Splatoon 2 and 3, and the new captain is the old Agent 3, the player character from Splatoon 1. I like the attempt to expand a literal blank slate player avatar into a distinct individual in the universe, though at that point they could have done with some dialogue of their own. The way I see it, if you bring back a past game's player insert silent protagonist as a side character in a future game, they'll inherently do things outside the player's control, so you might as well focus on that and go the extra mile. This time, the new idols, Deep Cut, are relevant in the base game's campaign. In fact, they're the bosses. However, their presence boils down to a side plot of wanting to loot Alternate and thinking you're an intruder, and even when they join your side, they aren't yet fleshed out enough to make them as compelling as the other idols. It may be that they do show lots of personality through Anarchy Splatcast dialogue that I've skipped, which is a fantastic addition, do not get me wrong. This is simply an unfortunate sacrifice that I'm willing to make in order to skip the news. From Deep Cut's reveal, Shiva was never referred to with any gender vocabulary across all languages for a solid 2 weeks, only for the game itself to refer to her with she/her pronouns. At the time the Direct aired, the game must have been far enough in translation for Nintendo to know which pronouns to refer to a key character as, so why did they do this in the first place? Honestly, it feels a bit like queerbait. Regardless of her gender, she's kinda cool, and you too can be cool regardless of your gender. The public consciousness surrounding Fry went from revolving around forehead jokes to nearly dying weeks after the game released. As disappointed as I would be, I can't contribute anything noteworthy to Fry discussion myself. She's also cool. I'm not convinced Nintendo are confident enough in Big Man. While Shiva and Fry are up front singing and dancing their hearts out, Big Man mostly stands in the back and ways around. Even his boss fight, instead of showing and building character through choreography and motif, is a replica of the Phantom Manta from Super Mario Sunshine, a game unrelated to Splatoon that I find odd to be referenced here to such an extent. And Manta Ray Idol is such a bold contrast to all the previous Inkling and Octoling idols. I only feel he lacks the direction required to elevate Deep Cut into a standout organic trio. Once you beat their boss fights, you venture to the rocket that's been standing in the middle of Alternate throughout your entire journey and climb to the top in what is essentially a less impactful reprise of Octo Expansion's escape sequence. One thing I have to commend is that near the end of this sequence, Cussle Cuttlefish almost dies on screen. Yeah, he gets revived with a single tear from the captain, but I would not have expected Splatoon to fully commit to a major character death in the first place. This is far enough to surprise me. Immediately following this is the long built-up since Splatoon 2 reveal of Mr. Grizz. If you've been following Splatoon lore, it seems so obvious that Mr. Grizz is a bear. There's no fake out this time, Mr. Grizz simply is just a bear. I won't lie, this is a major disappointment, easily my least favourite part of story mode, and possibly my biggest criticism of the entire game. Inkling Octarian society knowing that bears exist would cause mass panic because they believed mammals were supposed to be extinct. Yet Mr. Grizz, the villainous mastermind pulling our strings the whole time, decides to feature his species front and centre in his dubious company's branding. Not only that, but his company operates in the remains of the launch site for the spaceship he and a bunch of humans escaped on, featuring bear footprints and warning labels. Would a genius like Mr. Grizz really take no precautions so as not to reveal his identity to all of his part-time employees? How and when did Grizzco even establish itself and get big? If this is meant to play with the idea of Inklings being extremely inattentive, would no Octolings notice this instead? I know Splatoon doesn't prioritise its narrative, but it does prioritise its world building, and this severe lapse in logic sticks out like a sore thumb among the rest of the authentic world. To add insult to injury, after all of that build-up, Mr. Grizz isn't even a memorable villain. His dialogue during his two-part final boss fight is less memorable than his dialogue during Salmon Run. The fight itself is alright, the first part is not much to write home about, and the second part follows a different gameplay style to the rest of the game, which I don't like final bosses doing unless they're optional. I do not understand anything about Huge Fry either. He doesn't seem to fit either logically nor thematically. The last phase is accompanied by a new remix of Calamari Incantation, which is always a plus and hard to get wrong. If you beat every mission in Alternate, then defeat Mr. Grizz and finish story mode, a secret last mission unlocks in the first site after Ultima. This is the ultimate challenge story mode has to offer, and I'd say it's the only mission I've struggled to beat. It's long and difficult and tests every skill you've acquired through the game, and though I will admit a considerable factor in its difficulty is the long gaps between checkpoints, it remains a very solid challenge. Clearing all the content in Return of the Mammalians nets you many clothing items, decorations, phone wallpapers, as well as an earpiece on Lil Judd, which coupled with his table turf battle decked me mostly Salmon Run themed, implies we didn't really defeat Grizzco and he took over in Mr. Grizz's stead, dang it. Thankfully, I don't get the impression that Lil Judd can keep Grizzco running for very long, and it will likely collapse by itself in time for the next game. Instead, I think this only explains why Salmon Run is still playable after beating story mode. Or rather, I hope it does, because I do not want the DLC campaign to involve taking down Grizzco again. What would I like the DLC to involve then? It's quite hard to answer because most of the plot elements were concluded in Return of the Mammalians, so this would have to be something entirely new. We already know Off the Hook is starring in it, so it could involve us partaking in their world tour. If they're in it, then it's reasonable to assume Agent 8 will appear as well. If possible, I'd like Deep Cut and Agent 4 to reappear in order to flesh them out more. In fact, though I highly doubt this will happen, I would find it rather amusing if the DLC campaign was a character drama that suddenly made Agent 4 by far the most complex character in the series. Whatever they decide on, I trust that they can make the experience fun. Despite my gripes with some of its plot elements, Return of the Mammalians was an insane campaign. When many were expecting the base game's campaign to be a step down from Octo Expansion, in terms of scale and content, this was a step up. If this was only the base game's campaign, imagine what the dedicated paid DLC campaign will offer. I cannot wait. Meanwhile, let's take a look at a new side of Splatoon.
Poopy head. When we spell it out, you're a
Despite the primary focus of Splatoon still being its competitive multiplayer, 3 has not been afraid to expand sideways into the territory of social simulators. This game puts a larger emphasis on player customization through attributes such as physical appearance, windscreen emotes and name tags. Largest of all in this regard is the developer's response to continuous fan cries for one feature: customizable lockers. Following an intense anarchy battle or salmon run grinding session, feel free to unwind by decorating your own personal space with weapons, objects and stickers accumulated throughout your playtime. Before long, you'll be re-energized and ready to re-enter multiplayer, forming a cycle where both sides of the game naturally feed into each other. Additionally, it can stand as the main appeal of the game for some players. Instead of decorating a locker as a break from multiplayer, some may play multiplayer specifically to earn money to decorate their locker. There are multiple approaches to lockers that various types of player can take, all of which feel natural in this game and add to its appeal. I doubted you apartment supporters, but seeing a feature akin to what you wanted be officially added, I now see where you were coming from. The beauty of these customization options in Splatoon is that they all tie into the expansive world of the series. As detailed in Volume 7 of Ask the Developer, which is a great read I would recommend for any fan of this series, Splatoon's world mirrors our world. Each location, clothing item and song is established in universe and inspired by real-world architecture, fashion and music with its own added flair. Changes in these across games are explained as shifts in culture over the years, which occurs commonly in the real world as well. In many ways, Splatoon society is a cool dream world we wish real world society was more like. Dangerous escapism aside, each customizable aspect of your player character or locker, or most features of the game at this point, opens up room for even more universe expansion, giving players insight into areas of the in-universe culture they never would have seen otherwise. Splatoon is more than a third-person shooter, it's a platform for people to express themselves. To start with this, it's advised to take a trip to the new shop Hotlantis and pick up their catalogue. Experience earned in battle levels up the catalogue, unlocking new clothes, emotes, splash tag parts, locker decorations or table turf battle card packs at each level. If this sounds familiar, the catalogue is absolutely a battle pass, albeit included alongside the game that already costs full price. I hope that when a season ends and a new catalogue is released, all the items in the previous catalogue are added to the Shellout Machine's random pool. That way, the items aren't unobtainable past a certain date, like with other games' battle passes. Like other shops, Hotlantis offers a rotation of locker decorations purchasable with cash. Presumably to dedicate cash to clothes and locker items, all weapons were moved to a separate currency Sheldon licenses. One license is acquired upon leveling up or raising a weapon's freshness to level 1, and each weapon kit at the player's current level costs 1 license, while each kit above the player's level can still be bought for 3. In my opinion, this is not enough. I am level 17 and drowning in weapons far below my level that I still have yet to acquire. Mind you, this is the launch selection of weapon kits. Content updates will add even more kits to buy, although that may not make buying them all any harder since they all provide 1 license each for using them enough. It will certainly make it take longer. Speaking of content updates, they're a lot further spread apart in this game. Almost worryingly far apart. While 1 and 2 added 1 weapon per week for a good 8 months post-release, 3's first weapon update is scheduled for 3 months after release. I'm concerned they may fail to add enough content in each update to satisfy players for 3 months until the next, and player retention may drop more harshly as a result. Splatoon is frequently cited as the sole game that benefits from Nintendo's free content update strategy, but I don't want that to hinder even this. Kaboom! It's all good. I am very disappointed in the lack of Squid Beats 3. In its absence, we've had to refer to certain songs with nicknames such as Bang Bing. I know we voted for Chaos, but this is chaotic and unsatisfying. Squid Beats, we need you back. Don't get me wrong, this is only a minor gripe that does not significantly hinder my enjoyment of the game. In fact, with the possible exception of the netcode on a particularly bad day, none of my criticisms so far are egregious to the extent that they stop me from enjoying the game. Above all else, Splatoon 3 is a sequel to Splatoon 2, which is a sequel to Splatoon, and Splatoon is awesome. Splatoon 3 keeps everything that made the past 2 games awesome and ensures that whatever new stuff is added makes the series even more awesome. That is why I love Splatoon, and why I needed to gush about Splatoon 3. Now get out there and gush about your favourite awesome games. And maybe even play Splatoon if this has convinced you.